Okay, we've got a variety of smocks here so that we can discuss the sizing layout of the first pattern hand painted smock versus the later screen printed. I have to say that none of these smocks are for sale. Before you private message me, I've had to borrow a couple from a good collector friend of mine, and I hope you find the video informative. 1941-42 is a period of, you know, a lot of development, and obviously Denisons and oversmocks are both dated 1942, but in my opinion, and I'm going to use that a lot because it is only my opinion, but in my opinion, I think obviously the Denison is sort of is born out of the step-in smock. You know, they decided obviously it's not practical, and they're still unsure whether the garment that they're going to make is going over or under the equipment. So the idea why I believe that these first pattern hand painted ones are larger is because they've built it large enough to go over the equipment, and when you put one of those on, you'll see the area where it's most generous is here. It becomes almost three-dimensional here. At the same time, or a little bit later, but still in 42, they come out with the over smock, which obviously is designed to go over all of the equipment. But in the early days, if they were going to come out with an over smock which has a tail, what's the point in having two tails? So I think in the early days, like I said, to go over the equipment, and the tail coming up underneath is, again in my opinion, not logically to stop the garment going over your head as you're coming down because of the air pushing it up. I mean, anybody who's ever done a parachute jump will know that the harness holds all your clothes in, and that's for me it's just a reinforcement to protect the undercarriage area there. And then later models still have that tail when they're already moved on to using an oversmock, but I think they probably decided to keep it because they probably envisaged scenarios where troops may be dropped without using an oversmock for a variety of reasons. Who knows what those reasons are? You know, in the jungle, in the desert, no immediate access to oversmocks in a hurry, or I don't know, couldn't tell you. But as I said, this video is about the sizing, and I'm going to run through now some information that hopefully will back up what I say about the fact that I think their first pattern ones are larger. We do have the image of the original size chart and dimensions of the garment, which do give you you know, great reference points, you know, to measure lengths and widths of various parts. Although, again, the British Army are never consistent in anything, and you can get three smocks that are all 1944 dated and made by the same manufacturer, and they will be different widths and different lengths. And that's not just about shrinkage. Not quite sure why that is, but that is definitely a fact. Now, with regard to the sizings, there are 8 sizes, and the British Army, in their infinite wisdom, have tried to cover every man sort of with one of those sizes. But personally, I think they fail miserably, because there is no smock for a tall, slim guy. There is, but him and his mate can get into it because it's that large. So these are one of the issues. Obviously, when you look at original photographs, which we will show you a photograph of 3 guys standing there, where some guys have got them down to their knees and other guys have got them barely covering their crutch, because they've obviously decided that although their size dictates that they have, for argument's sake, a size 5 or a size 6 or whatever, they've decided it's far too big and they've swapped it in for a size 3 or whatever, so they've downsized. But then, as I say, in those photographs you can see guys who've been issued with the size that it says they should be issued with, and they're down to their knees, and very, very generous in their cut. Obviously now that creates not a problem, but a discussion with any of you who want to order an HJN early pattern smock about what size you should order. Now, the first thing I have to say is we don't customize these. Okay, we're going on original size spec and we're doing them as they should be. That doesn't mean that you can't, you know, size down or whatever. And I'm happy to give a bit of advice to suggest if you took a slightly, you know, smaller smock, how much shorter it might be in the body or whatever. Okay, what I don't want to do is I don't want to get into putting my miserable hat on now. I don't want to get into sort of half an hour Facebook Messenger discussions about your Soldier of Fortune smock and how it fits you and how your other repro fits you, because their sizes have no bearing on original sizes, in particular the first pattern smock. So, and I sound like a grumpy old man, okay, but I'll show you what's available, what the sizing setup is, and like I said, happy to advise you a little bit, but you will have to make a decision. And if you sort of get your smock and you say, oh, it doesn't fit me like my Soldier of Fortune one, then really I think you shouldn't have bought a smock from me. Having said that, if you don't use it and you want to exchange it for a different size, I'm happy to do that. But as I said, we're not doing custom sizes. These are for people who want an authentic smock as it should be. Even if you were to go down a size or whatever, it's still what is what I would consider authentic. Okay, if you're looking for a fashion cut, you know, that's not what you're going to get here. Okay, so like I said, happy to help advise you, but no big long discussions about your you know, your other repro smock and how it fits you. This is a size 5 Wearings hand painted 1942, which, as you can see, is sort of, you know, from the colours, it's quite used, quite sort of washed out, and probably has been washed and may have shrunk a bit. But what we notice is any shrinkage tends to be in the length, as in the run of the cloth, not so much across the width of the cloth. And I'll compare that with a later size 5. Okay, so here is another size 5, which is the later war pattern with the button cuffs. And again, this is quite well used, glider pilot one, the tail's been cut off of it. But I would imagine, again, if there's been any shrinkage, you know, it tends to be in this run of the cloth and not across the width. And I shall compare that with the hand painted size 5, and you will see a marked difference in the actual size of the body, the width. Now, as you can see, with these two laid hem to hem, they've both been washed, both probably shrunk a little bit. You can see that this hand painted one is still considerably wider at the bottom, at the skirt, which should be around 63 inches, which is the same, incidentally, as it is around the chest. And when you think about it, 63 inches for a man whose actual breast, they're saying, is 37 to 39, 63 inches is almost 2 foot larger than the man. I know they're a generous garment, but I really think they went to town there, again for the reasons I explained. So the back view of the same garments, the hand painted one across the shoulders, chest area, again 2 inches across there, which in reality means the garment is 4 inches bigger in its chest than the screen printed version. Okay, with the front of the garments laid together, sort of down the centre front seam, with the collars in tune there, you can see essentially they're exactly the same length. Another early hand painted smock made by CWS, which is a size 4, which incidentally is a shorter version of a 7. When you look at the size charts, you'll see that the only difference in the two sizes is the sleeve length and the garment length. I'll be comparing that now with a screen printed size 7, but we're not concerned with the length so much as the main body, the width, because this is the thing that that's most important. So this is the screen printed one that I'll be comparing the sizing with. It's a size 7 made by Lewis, but as we said, a size 7 and a size 4 body wise are exactly the same. Okay, so here are the backs of the two smocks, the hand painted smock, the screen printed Lewis, laid back to back, and as you can see, this hand painted one again is a couple of inches wider across the seam than the later screen printed version. So this is the one that we just looked at, the screen printed CWS, which had been full length zipped, but was probably made in 42. Can't quite read the label, but laid on top of that now is another size 7, which as you can see is the later pattern, which you can call second or third pattern depending on how you look at things, but essentially they're the same size garment. This is in quite good condition from the point of view, I don't imagine it's been washed that much. It's got good strong colours, and if it's shrunk, it hasn't shrunk much I would imagine, but just look at the difference across the back in two that are supposed to be the same size. So in a second I'll show you this garment compared to the hand painted version. So the hand painted size 4, which is a size 7 but for a short guy, and a later war size 7, John Gordon and the Wonky Stitching Brigade. Look at the difference across the actual body of it. There's a massive difference. I'm not saying all size 7s are this small, but I'm just saying have a look at them. It's not so much about these being small, it's about these hand painted ones being big. Okay, I think I've basically laboured the point enough now that you get that the first pattern hand painted ones are a larger cut, and that's how we make them. Okay, here we have the size chart and garment dimensions as shown in the Denison book by Bruce Wilson, photographs by Oliver Locke. Recommend, if you haven't got, buy a copy. Great information on the Denison, and also showing some other great airborne garments, step-in smocks, wind axe, trousers, parachutists. But you can see here on the size layout the size of, for argument's sake I'll pick one at random, a tall slim man who's 6 foot tall and he's got a 40 inch chest or something. They're giving him a size 7, and they're saying that the actual body of the garment that's going round him is 65 inches, so it's 25 inches bigger around the garment than is around the man. Okay, another couple of photos from the Denison book. On the right hand side here you can see these three guys. The one on the left is wearing what I will call a hand painted smock. You can see in the design there he's got his belt hitched up there, and you can see it's really sort of bellowed out there, so without that belt that is coming down beyond the pocket of his trousers there. The man in the centre is wearing a smock that was probably the correct size for his dimensions, but as you can see, it comes down to his knees. It's very wide, hanging off the shoulders. Maybe he was happy with that, it worked for him. But if you look at the guy behind him, who, although he's standing behind, is probably the same height as him. Their chins are virtually in the sort of same area, so if he were to step forward, they'd be about the same height. If anything, this guy might be a fraction taller. Look where his smock is finishing. He's decided, I'm not wearing one that comes down like a skirt, I'm swapping it in for a size 3 or something. And this is the compromise you make, or you may have to make, when ordering. If you decide that you don't want one that is going to swamp you, you will end up going down a size. We can, like I said, discuss the size, but you might end up going down a size where you'll lose length. The body won't be as wide, but you'll obviously lose length. And then if you look at the officer on the left hand side, Canadian medical officer, very slim fitting garment, no idea how tall he is, but the bottom line is he has swapped in for a garment that fits him better, even though what he's wearing there probably isn't a hand painted one. It's probably a later smock. But as I say, you know, if you want a smock to fit you like this narrow in the body, etc, etc, you're going to end up with a much smaller smock, which is going to be much shorter in length. So that is a decision you will have to make. Okay, just showing you the size 5. Yes, I have put a red beret on. I felt I needed to. Showing you the size 5 and how it fits me. Alright, I'm 44-inch chest, I'm not a size 5. But if you see how much slack there is in this garment now compared to the hand painted one, which I shall show you next. And here I am in another size 5, which is the early hand painted smock, and look at the amount of play in that, in particular how it comes out this way. One would say maybe to accommodate a certain amount of kit. Completely different garments. Okay, I hope that has been informative with regard to sizing and helping you order your Denison. There is a long waiting list. We do these by hand, and I can only do a certain amount at a time with other commitments that I've got, other stuff that needs to be made. If you want to add your name to the list, as I work through them, when I come to you, I'll contact you, and if for whatever reason you're not in a position to go ahead with the order, I can just rotate you to the back, and you know, one way or another we can get there in the end. Because if you've shown interest in the smock, then obviously it shows that you are keen to have the absolute best reproduction of the Second World War British Airborne smock, and for that I salute you.